This video is instruction on how to put quotation marks into your writing when you are writing dialogue. Dialogue means when two people are speaking, or more than two people are speaking, or only one person is speaking. So you put quotation marks in front of and behind the exact words that someone says. For example, "You are such a wonderful class," said Miss Terry. So this is exactly what Miss Terry said. So this goes in quotation marks. You see the front quotation marks and the back quotation marks. Then you put a comma and then said Miss Terry and put the period there. So this is the end of what Miss Terry said, but because it's a dialogue, it's not going to be the end of the sentence. So you put a comma, then the said whomever, and put the period there. If the sentence is a statement, add a comma at the end of the exact words, so right there, and put a period at the very end of the sentence, which is what we did right there. All right. Then, what if it was a question? "Are you a wonderful class?" asked Miss Terry. Well, this is exactly what Miss Terry said. And since it was a question, we're going to put the question mark there. And then we're going to end our sentence with a period. So it says here, if the sentence is a question, put a question mark at the end of the exact words and a period at the end of the whole sentence. So if it's a question, if the person has asked a question, you put the question mark there, then you put a period at the very end of the sentence. What if it was an exclamation? "You are such a wonderful class," exclaimed Miss Terry. So if the sentence is an exclamation, put an exclamation mark here and then a period at the end of the whole sentence. So if it's just a statement, it gets a comma and then the period goes there. If it's a question, it gets a question mark and then a period there. If it's an exclamation, it gets an exclamation point and a period there. Well, what if the writer decided to split up what the person says? And the writer said, "You are," said Miss Terry, "such a wonderful class." Now, that's kind of a weird way of writing, but sometimes writers actually do that. They interrupt what the person was saying by putting in who said it. And when that is the case, you set that off by putting a period here. This is the exact word someone said, then the period, then they stuck in the said Miss Terry part, but that's not the end of it. So there's another comma here. Then this is more of the exact words that the person said. Such a wonderful class. Then the period goes here, and then the next set of quotation marks. So actually what Miss Terry said was, "You are such a wonderful class," but the writer chose to interrupt her statement and put this in the middle. So you see that that's set off by some commas. All right. Every time a new person speaks, you should start a new paragraph. This is important to know when you're doing your own writing. And remember, a paragraph is when you indent. So you can see this is the beginning of a paragraph. You're really not going to have to worry about the indenting part in your assignment, but since it's here, I'm going to talk about it. And then we can look at how this is set up in quotation marks. This is a question. This is exactly what the person said. When are When are you leaving for the movies? Jensen asked his mother when they finished eating dinner. So this is exactly what Jensen said. And since it was a question, it gets a question mark here. And then Jensen asked his mother when they finished eating dinner, period. Then his mother's going to reply, so that's why it's indented. But this is what she said. I'd like to leave at 6:30 so we have plenty of time to get there. Comma, quotation marks. His mother replied. Now there is a comma up here, but that's just because this is a clause, and so it's set off with that comma. This comma doesn't have anything to do with quotation marks. So you can see everything she said was, I'd like to leave at 6:30 so we have plenty of time to get there, comma, quotation marks. His mother replied. Then that's where we put the period. This was a statement, so it gets a comma and a period. And then she said something else. Please call your grandma and let her know. So we ended that with the period because we didn't say his mother also said. We know that his mother's still speaking because it's up here in this part. So Jensen's going to talk some more. That's why it's indented, though you're not going to have to worry about that with your assignment. That's great, Jensen said. I'll call Grandma so she can meet us there. This is one of those examples where the speaker's words got interrupted or got split up because the writer decided to insert Jensen said in the middle of what he actually said. That's great, comma, Jensen said, comma, I'll call Grandma so she can meet us there. Then he finally stopped talking, so you put a period and quotation marks. His mother said, thanks, son, period. You are very helpful. Now, the reason there's a period here is because she said 2 complete sentences. She said, thanks, son. So we want to put a period there. You are very helpful, period. Okay? And this is where we have the comma because who said it is in front there. So the next part says, with your partner, insert quotation marks and punctuation in the correct places. Well, I doubt that you have a partner there with you, but we're going to go through this together. So, don't jump on the couch, my mom shouted. What were the exact words that my mom shouted? Don't jump on the couch. So that's got to be inside quotation marks. So I'm going to do that part first. Put quotation marks there and quotation marks here. Now, my mom shouted. So do you think there's going to be a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point? Well, if you're shouting, there's probably going to be an exclamation point. So remember that question marks and exclamation points get put here. So don't jump on the couch, my mom shouted. And that goes inside the quotation marks. It doesn't go on this side. It goes on that side, on the left side. So my mom shouted, that's the end of the sentence. So that's where we have to put the period. All right, let's look at this one. Dad said, put away your clothes. What were the exact words that Dad said? These, put away your clothes. It's exactly what he said. So we're going to put those in quotation marks. Put away your clothes. And we know that when we have who said it at the beginning of the sentence, we have to put the comma right there to set it off. And we put it, again, we want to put it on the outside of the quotation marks, not on the inside. Now, Dad has begun this sentence, so it's beginning of his sentence. So we're going to put a capital letter there, put away your clothes. And it doesn't say he shouted it or asked it, it just said he said it. So what kind of punctuation are we going to end with right here? Dad said, put away your clothes. It's just a statement, so we're going to put a period there. All right, let's look at the next one. I hope, said Brad, that I made the baseball team this year. What exactly did Brad say? He said, I hope that I made the baseball team this year. But our writer has inserted this in the middle. So we have two parts that have to go in quotation marks. We're going to put quotation marks here because he said, I hope. And we're going to put him here. The other part of what he said is that I made the baseball team this year. You might notice that I'm kind of doing this in steps. I'm doing first, where do the quotation marks go? And then I'm trying to decide where to put commas or exclamation points or periods or question marks. So, I hope, said Brad. He's not finished speaking here, so we're going to put a comma. And he's not finished speaking here either, so we're going to put another comma. This is not the beginning of what he said, so it's going to remain a lowercase letter. This was the beginning of what Dad said. That's why we capitalized that P. And then he's finished speaking here, and all he said was, I hope that I made the baseball team this year. He didn't shout it or exclaim it. He just said it. So we'll end it with a period. Then we're going to look at the next one. Will you show me how to throw a curveball? Michelle asked her brother. All right. So what exactly did Michelle say? What were her exact words? Will you show me how to throw a curveball? Those were that's the exact thing she said. So that's going to go inside the quotation marks. Will you show me how to throw a curveball? And Michelle asked her brother. So this is a question. And since it's a question, we're going to put a question mark there. And it needs to go inside the quotation mark. It needs to touch the question. So it needs to go in there. Michelle asked her brother. And this is going to end with a period. We put our question mark here. If we put another question mark here, the sentence would sound like this. Will you show me how to throw a curveball? Michelle asked her brother. So that's why we wanted to end with a period, because we want it to sound like this. Will you show me how to throw a curveball? Michelle asked her brother. So there are some examples of how to use quotation marks and where to put commas, and if you've asked a question, where to put the question mark, if it's an exclamation, where to put the exclamation mark. And then this kind of example here where it's broken up, and this one, this is going to be not on today's assignment, but on tomorrow's assignment. So you might want to come back and rewatch this video and pay careful attention to when you've got split quotation marks. So this is what it means by split quotation marks. You've got part of the quotation here and part of it after somebody said something. So you might want to come back and look at that.